Okay, well, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Nice to see everybody. Thank you, Steve. Yours is louder. Nice to see everybody on this very dull, dreary morning, but I'm sure it'll get brighter as the day goes on. So, Tim, do you have something for us this morning, please?
I do. This one will be about an extra minute longer than usual because they actually do both versions. So here you go.
The great selection. Okay, over to our Sergeant at Arms. Al, what do you have for us this morning?
Well, good morning, President Ann, and good morning, fellow Rotarians, and a very warm welcome to our town crier, Steve. Steve Travers, a very colorful character, and he brightens up any room he goes into or any function he attends. Steve, we're looking forward to hear from you shortly. Thank you so much for joining us. Michael Tuff, good morning, Michael. Nice to see you. Jennifer, good morning, and some exciting times ahead, and we wish you all the best. Lovely to see you this morning. Dwayne, I was talking to, and nice to see you this morning, my friend. And I was talking to your friend, our Rotarian Marlene, and she was telling me a little bit about you. And wow, you are a very interesting character, and you are involved in some wonderful things in the world. So we're looking forward to sometime in the future hearing about those. But thank you for what you do. You're a special guy. And I've saved the best for the last, folks. Our very own Miriam King. Miriam, it's so nice to see you. You keep, through these troubled times, you keep Innisfil on the map. You're a wonderful, wonderful supporter of our community. But you're an even better supporter of our club. You've always been there for us right from the very beginning. We seem to have this conversation a lot, and I really mean it. And from all of us, all of the Rotarians here, to you, thank you so much for your support over the years. Thank you. Thank you. President Ann, that's it for this morning.
Thank you, Al. And Miriam, it's always lovely to see you at our meetings as well. So thank you for joining us. Okay, I'm going to ask Jen to introduce our colourful speaker this morning, Steve. So Jen, over to you.
Thank you, President Ann. Stephen Travers is 66 years old. He came to Canada with his family in 1991 and settled in Barrie right away. He became town crier in 2002 to help celebrate the city of Barrie's I probably should have practiced this word, sequicentennial. Steve, can you help?
Sesquicentennial.
Thank you. Which is 100.
Sesquicentennial.
He started as town crier and has now been town crier for 19 years. Steve's regular job was a refrigeration technician, but he quit to work as a maintenance man for the Simcoe County School Board when he was 56. Steve has attended hundreds of events and even town crier contests around the world too, including coming in 7th in the world in a contest in Bermuda in 2015. Steve's wife, Linda, also dresses in 18th century gowns and hats and accompanies Steve whenever he attends certain events. COVID has reduced the amount of events that Steve has attended, but he hopes that all will be normal soon. Please welcome Steve.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was great. Thank you. Yes, sesquicentennial. Absolutely unbelievable for a town crier. You're reading your proclamation. Ladies and gentlemen, we're celebrating a oh, yeah, 150 years. So COVID came along last year, and I'd already booked with my lovely wife to go to Bermuda again because Bermuda was celebrating 400 years of existence. And so in April of last year, the town crier for Bermuda, who's called Ed Christopher, was going to, he had invited town criers to come from all over the world to the city of Hamilton, Bermuda. And they were going to put us up for 5 days in a beautiful hotel with our wives and our consorts, as we say. If you're not married, you bring a consort with you, your lovely friend or whatever. And we were going to do proclamations every single day in the various towns on the island of Bermuda to celebrate 400 years of their wonderful existence. But unfortunately, it was cancelled, of course, because of COVID. So it just didn't happen. Everybody has now got Air Canada flight vouchers. But it just didn't happen. And it's such a shame because Bermuda is a lovely place. And Ed Christopher is 6'6" tall. He's huge, wonderful, wonderful gentleman of African origin, and a great town crier indeed, just great. And a very good looking town crier too. He walks down the street and the ladies in the shops come out when they see him in his uniform and go, "Hello, Ed." "Ooh, hello." "Hello, ladies." It was great. He's ever such a nice guy. So it's been the weirdest year for me, boys and girls. The weirdest year because, of course, normally I do about between 70 and 100 events a year as town crier. And I do town crier events here in Innisfil as well because I live in Sandy Cove Acres. My wife and I moved from Barrie 2 years ago. Because my wife suffers greatly from muscular dystrophy, and our house was one of those big, tall homes with 2 huge, massive sets of stairs. So we didn't want to do that anymore. We moved into a bungalow here in Sandy Cove, and we love Sandy Cove Acres. It's really nice. It's a lovely community with lots of things going on. Well, there was, and of course now it's all it's all cancelled. There's no dances or pool tables open or oh, what a shame. Never mind. But the town of Innisfil has been really nice to me. They have asked me to attend many of their events. And Councillor Payne knows me well because she lives here in Sandy Cove. And she said to me, Steve, come and do all sorts of events at our town hall. So I have done as well. So I'm sort of like a bit like the Innisfil town crier as well. But they haven't officially made me town crier for the town of Innisfil yet. That might happen. Who knows? If I asked them, they probably would. But it's been weird. Instead of doing lots of proclamations, I've been doing virtual proclamations. So I've been standing outside various buildings and I've been filmed. I've also been to the Barry Library and been filmed as well, doing proclamations for various charities, and then they post them. And I've also done 2 walking tours, virtual walking tours. Now, you might have seen them. They're available on YouTube. You just type in Barry Town Crier. The one is of the Union Cemetery, and the other one is Barry Town Crier talks about the Simcoe County Jail. Now, generally known as the Barry Jail, but Simcoe County Jail is its true name. And I did a virtual walking tour of that, and I stand outside and describe the rogues and scoundrels who were incarcerated in the Simcoe County Jail in the 1800s. So, sort of fun thing to do, really. When I'm town crier, I'm really not nervous at all. I've done all sorts of proclamations for people like the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor General and things like that. And it doesn't make me nervous. But when you start filming me, there's something about being filmed with a camera that makes me a little bit nervous. So I have to really think very carefully about what I'm about to say. So the tour of the Union Cemetery is not, repeat, not a ghost tour. I do not do such crass things. I don't talk about ghosts. That's just ridiculous. The cemetery is a lovely place, the Union Cemetery, and it's very, very, very well looked after. And each one of those gravestones of our wonderful pioneers who are in there has their name on it, their date of birth, the place that they were born, and then their date of their death and the place they passed, where they passed. And lots of them helped build our wonderful, wonderful community here with all sorts of innovations. There's people there that were the first, the first mayors of the towns around here in Simcoe County, and there's also people like Janet Kingley is incarcerated there. Janet Kingley was Mackenzie King's sister, so Prime Minister Mackenzie King sister, yeah. She actually was engaged to a really nice, good-looking guy down there, and they lived down near Toronto. And then, unfortunately, her fiance was in Ottawa and saw a young woman who had fallen through the ice on the Ottawa River, and he ran across the ice and went in to get her, but the ice collapsed under him, and unfortunately, the woman couldn't swim, and she was so ferocious with worry about dying that she actually drowned him. So she came up to Barry, and she met a widower, and he was a nice, gentle person and caring, and so she married him. And so she became Janet Kingley. She married Mr. Lay, L-A-Y. There's Robert Simpson, the brewer, in there as well, the first mayor of the town before we were a city, the first mayor of the town of Barry. And the wonderful thing was he was a brewer. Well, guess what? It was an open ballot in those days. And if you wanted to vote for a mayor, you walked down Dunlop Street and you stood next to the person that you wanted to vote for. So the various candidates stood in the street, and all the men, no women voters, boo girls, boo in those days, only men voters. All the men that wanted to vote for various people stood next to them and they did a head count. Well, let's have a think. It's the 1800s. Barry's full of railroad men, loggers, farmers, and he's a brewer. Who am I going to vote for? Yes, I'm sure they were all just, tea and coffee drinkers. No. So they all stood next to him, and anybody that voted for him, because he counted the heads and looked at who was voting for them, all got to drink free beer that night. Woohoo! Needless to say, it was an easy contest for Robert Simpson. Now, in the jail, we had various people that were incarcerated there. Some, not many innocent people in those days arrested, mainly for drunk and disorderly, etc. And so you get locked up in the Simcoe County Jail. It is the oldest stone-built building in Simcoe County. It's made of Couchiting limestone. How about that, eh? Couchiting limestone. And the most infamous criminal was James Carruthers, who got drunk one day and went home to his wife, and she said, "Have you been off spending all our money that you're supposed to give the children and feed your family? How dare you?" And he threw his dinner that she'd made him on the floor, went back to the pub, drunk himself into a stupor, returned and beat his poor wife to death. Then the next morning, they found him in a barn, and the children realized what he'd done, and they called for the authorities, and he was arrested. And then he was tried correctly, and of course, quite rightly, hanged. Pictures are hung, people are hanged. Hanged by the neck until dead. And then after he was dead, he killed a second time. You're all looking at me going, what the hell? How did a dead dude do that? He killed the coroner, believe it or not. It took the coroner from Toronto 2 weeks to come clip-clopping up with his horse and cart. By that time, Carruthers' body was hot and bloated because there was no refrigeration in those days. And the coroner cut him up because he was a wicked sinner and wasn't buried in consecrated ground. He was buried in the confines of the jail, and they still are. There's a dozen bodies in the Simcoe County Jail courtyard, unmarked. However, the coroner was cutting him up to take his organs to demonstrate to medical students what the various organs look like. And unfortunately, the coroner nicked his own hand with his scalpel, and 2 weeks later, the coroner died from blood poisoning. Does anybody in the group there know what the official term for the blood poisoning is? Anybody know? No?
Sepsis?
Septicemia?
That's right. Septicemia. That's it. Yep. Septicemia. He died of septicemia, poor boy. Yep. So I've done those 2 virtual walking tours, and once we've all had the shot, yippee, I'll be doing more walking tours. I normally do 4 a year. I do 2 in the spring, and I'll do 2 in the summer too, and I'll do them hopefully next year, I do downtown tours and the Union Cemetery tours. The Union Cemetery tours, like I say, I'm deeply respectful of all the people in that cemetery and talk nice things about them. But the downtown tour, I talk about some of the rogues and scoundrels that we had in Barry every Saturday night when the boys were paid at 5 points. They used to have a little punch up outside the Simcoe Hotel, which was owned by Michael Carruthers. O'Shaughnessy. Michael O'Shaughnessy. Sorry, yes. Michael O'Shaughnessy. Yes. Michael O'Shaughnessy, who of course was Lithuanian. No, Irish. And he had some ladies who provided marital services to the railroad men and loggers on a Saturday night at payday upstairs in the Simcoe Hotel. And one of which, a lady called Mary Scoot Hodgins, I don't know why her nickname was Scoot, but she became quite wealthy on such providing marital services to the railroad men and loggers. When they had a punch up, by the way, they all bet on their champion, and the railroad men bet on their champion, and the loggers bet on their champion. And when they won, they went in the pub and celebrated, and when they lost, they drowned their sorrows. You know. People in those days, by the way, there wasn't a lot of women in Barry in the mid 1800s. It was mainly guys. So in order to get a wife, you could write to people for one. Have I told you this before ever? Have you ever heard this story before? Okay, so I have a friend whose family came to Barry, and they'd been farmers for years and years and years. They came in the early 1800s, and so his great-great-grandfather came. And he came with his brother and set up a farm. And he wrote to a very, very nice Dutch girl who sent him a drawing of her face. And he wrote to her and said, "I'll send you the money. Will you please come and marry me?" So she said, "Okay." You've got to remember, in those days, poor women, if they were in a situation where perhaps their father had passed or they were in desperate straits, they didn't have a lot of options, you know. So she got on the boat with the money he'd sent her and arrived in Toronto. Well, the day before, or a couple of days before, he was about to get in his horse and cart and go and pick up his bride-to-be. He had an accident on the farm, and a wagon rolled over his legs. Oh, broke them both. Oh, goodness me, the poor guy couldn't walk and he was in agony. So they put him to bed, and his brother, who was younger and a bit better looking, got in the horse and cart and went down to Toronto to go and meet the boat and meet his brother's bride-to-be. Well, when she got off the ship and he met her there on the docks, and you know, she said who she was. He looked at her and went, well, my brother's a little bit older than me and not as good looking, and you're absolutely gorgeous. Would you like to come and have a little drink with me? So she said, okay, sis, I've been on the boat and I'm very tired. And so she did. She went and had a drink with him, and then halfway through the evening, he said, would you marry me? She looked at him and said, okay, yeah, you're nice. So in those days, you could pay a person who was a lay preacher, or, you know, a lay clergyman, or, you know, whatever, and they, as long as you paid them enough, they would marry you at any time of the day. So that evening, with a couple of witnesses from the bar, he married her. And then, of course, in order for the wedding to be official, they stayed the evening in the bar to consummate the relationship. And the next morning, they drove in their horse and cart to come up to Barry. And there was the brother, you know, in bed there and whatever. And they explained to him that they were married. Well, of course, the brother was furious. For a start, he paid for her to come over. Didn't talk to his younger brother for 3 months. That must have been pretty difficult on the farm. However, she wrote to her cousin, who sent a real black and white photograph of her face to the elder brother. And the younger brother paid for the other cousin to come and marry his eldest brother. Yeah. What a shame, you know, that really it was such a shame. No votes for women, and there was, you know, no social security, and you know, and the poor ladies that were working late at night, you know, may have been widows, or you know, their husbands could have been killed working on farms or logging. You know, a tree fell on them or whatever, and they had to support their family. It was very, very difficult in those days for people to make ends meet, and we were known in Barry as the most combustible town as well, because we had it was all made of wood, and we had several fires that literally raged through the town and burnt it to the ground. And so it was sort of rebuilt 3 times in the 1800s. We didn't have a town crier. I am actually the first town crier for the city of Barry. We had a court crier who was a young man, and his nickname was Thrift. He was known as Thrift Meldrum. Girls, would you marry a guy whose nickname was Thrift? I don't think so. Eh? You know, if it was Generous Meldrum, you'd probably marry him, wouldn't you? But Thrift Meldrum, it's probably a bit of a name. However, he was hilariously funny, and he would stand there at the in the courthouse, and there'd be the judge there, and then they'd bring in the accused, and he'd be the court crier, and so he'd go, bring in Steve Travers for drunk and disorderly again. And so he was so funny in court that both bar and bench, you know, right, bar and bench, the lawyers and the judges would laugh so heartily, sometimes they would forget their dignity. It was that funny. Yeah. Isn't that marvelous? So, yep.
Sorry, Steve, sorry to interrupt. But,
that's all right. I think my time is up.
Yeah, you have fascinating stories, and I know, you know, you can tell us so many stories about the area, and you've become an excellent historian for the area as well. And we always love hearing your stories, and we can't wait until everybody, I mean, I think they're the most said words in the English language right now, when this is over. Or when we get back to normal. I think, you know, we've been saying it for over a year now, but
I'll take you all on a free tour. I'll take you all on a free walk around downtown.
That would be fantastic, and we'll probably take you up on that offer. I just want to see, does anybody have any specific questions for Steve?
Did I repeat any of these stories that you might have heard before, boys and girls?
No. I don't think so, no.
Okay, good, because I didn't want you to be bored.
No, we're never bored, Steve. You've always got some great stories. Does anybody else have any questions?
President Ann,
Yeah, go
Janet here. Steve, how do you become a town crier? Like,
That's a very
there a
good
school
question.
for town criers?
That, believe it or not, it was 2002, and the city put an advertisement in the newspaper advertising for a town crier to be appointed in 2002 so that they could practice ready for 2003 for the official sesquicentennial 150 years of the Barry community. So what happened was they put a terrible advertisement in with a cartoon picture of a town crier who wasn't wearing a tricorn hat or anything. He was wearing a top hat. Now there are some town criers that wear top hats, etc., because there were town criers later in Victorian times as well. But they put this advert in and they said, please write and you will be judged on your letter saying why you think you should be the official town crier for the city of Barry. So I thought, oh, okay, all right. So I took out a quill pen and I got some fancy writing paper that looked very sort of yellowish. And I sort of got my quill pen and wrote in calligraphy style. And I wrote in old style terms. So I wrote, behold, members of our esteemed city council, I hereby proclaim that I wish to become your official town crier, and that during the year of our Lord 2020, I would greatly be most honored to represent. So I wrote in that fashion. And they had 3 applicants, only 3. Like I said, the advert was terrible actually, but it wasn't very good. They only had 3 applicants. One of them thought it was a full-time job and that it was going to be paid 20,000 a year or something. And the other one didn't show up when they asked all the people to read their application to council in the City Hall chambers, in Barry Chambers. So I thought, okay, I'm going to read my application. I didn't know that the other people weren't turning up. So I arrived and I'd gone to a hire shop and I'd hired sort of a pirate uniform and hat and a wig, you know, with the sort of 18th century wig with a ponytail. And I stood there and read my application. They looked around and went, any other applicants? So yes, that's right. So my wife just reminded me and said, so after I'd done the year for 2003 for the sesquicentennial, the city of Barry said, we want to keep you on. And so I have a 4-year rollover contract. And I am also, and they pay me the princely sum of $650 a year. And that is great because it covers my gasoline fees.
Well, thank you,
So,
Steve. We would love to listen to you all day, but you know, I'm going to have to.
My wife, don't worry, my wife says the same thing. She
we are
said
going to have to move forward, but thank you so much for coming to our meeting again, and hopefully we'll see you again before too long.
Thank you.
You're always entertaining and we're really happy, and hopefully you will become the town crier for Innisfil. So you should work on that resume as well. So
thank you. And if
thank
ever
you,
any of you at all need a town crier to do a virtual proclamation for any charity or any, you know, community event that you're thinking, just get in touch with me. Just get in touch with me and I will come and do it for you. And then after COVID, I will come and do it personally for you. Okay.
That's great. Thank you, Steve. Now you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you like, but we understand if you have other things to do. But thank you again on behalf of the club for constantly entertaining us with your presence. So thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on, just want to touch on some old business. The advertising materials, we had a board meeting last night, and we've got a couple of people who are going to get together to just try and finalize the wording on that very soon, so we can start getting that material distributed through the library and through the local grocery stores and things like that. Another piece of old business is, apparently, I can't remember if I've mentioned this at the club level before, apparently a few years ago we were approached by Wasaga Beach, Steve Wallace and his team, to support one of the heart projects in the Dominican Republic, and they were applying for a RI grant at the time and wanted to know if we could contribute to the project to help them. And apparently this was about 3 years ago, and the club agreed to it. And they finally got their RI grant for that. So now they're looking to us for some money that we committed to them 3 years ago. So we're going to take care of settling that obligation this week with Steve. And I know many of our club members here have been involved in the heart projects down in the Dominican Republic, and I think we're all very supportive of the projects down there. So I'm glad we were able to assist with that one. The other piece of old business is, and Doug's got his background up, is the watershed cleanup and the pitching day. And I know, Al, as running the pitching committee, you have a meeting with the town, I believe, on tomorrow. And is that correct? You're on mute, Al.
Yeah. Yes. Tomorrow night we have a meeting at what basically we're waiting on the town to approve something for this year, and so far they haven't done it. But we're hopeful we're going to get something in the works, and we probably will work in conjunction with what Doug's going to tell you about with the Rotary angle.
Okay, great. Thanks, Al. Doug, do you just want to give a quick update on what's happening with the watershed cleanup?
Yes. So for those that don't know, the Rotary's, of course, the seventh area of focus is water and watershed cleanups and environment. So what they want to do is they want to do this massive cleanup. There are districts in the northern U.S. Anything that flows into the Great Lakes is involved in this. So of course our district is also heavily involved, as we don't border on the Great Lakes directly, but we border on the tributaries and headwaters of. They want to do a massive cleanup starting as early as April 24th, which is in fact Earth Day, and continue right through until the end of the first 2 weeks in May. We're working with the town. Hopefully everything's going to come together. We can work together, keep it socially distanced, keep it safe, spread it out over a 2-week time frame so that there's not large congregations of people and such. We also want to try to tabulate some of the volumes and weights of some of the garbage that we clean up, as well as specific and special items. Like one year we found a couple of pink toilets and things like that. By doing this cleanup in your community and your local area, we can help our environment, we can still do it safely, and the Rotary Club of Innisfil, as well as all across District 7010, can be a catalyst in helping keep our environment and our headwaters clean, especially because we all derive our drinking water from that lake right now if you live in Alcona and Innisfil.
Thanks, Doug. And I'm sure we'll have many volunteers from our group when we've finalized the dates on this one. So as updates come in, we will keep the club updated on that. So thank you. Okay, moving on to new business. As you know, last week I asked people if they could submit their ideas for fundraising and whether we should go big or small, what we should do with fundraising living in the COVID world. And I asked for people to send those suggestions to Tim and Jeff. Now, Jeff isn't with us today, but Tim, do you want to give us an update on that and what the decision has been?
Certainly, President Ann. So we discussed it last night based on the findings of everybody, all the recipients, people who asked for ideas or provided ideas, sorry, morning brain. So we have decided to go with a small to moderate size lottery, with the idea that it's something that we could probably start and finish quickly and then do a new one. So we are going to go back to doing a beer for a year lottery. Still some details to be worked out as to amount of tickets and costs. So last, I think we agreed on $20 per ticket and 500. Does that, Doug? You were involved with the last one. Is 500? No, that's only $10,000. So I'm not sure what the actual cost is of the products, but those are the things that Jeff and I will discuss further. So I'll just quickly show. We are already in the ability to do this right now. So this is the new site that's been built up for it. So with this, people can actually go order their tickets, go big or go home, and you can actually check it out and pay for it online. It already is ready to go. So this is attached to our Square terminal. People can order these tickets right away. So we're going to do this lottery completely virtually. So, but one other thing we discussed in the meeting is connected to the branding and the image that we're trying to project in the community. Those two things need to go hand in hand. So for us to be able to sell tickets, we need to be able to show what we're actually doing with that money. And that's part of our image that we're presenting. So the more content we have for the site, the stuff that, the posters that Jamie Hardy has done with Whitney and her husband are fantastic. It's a great start. But you say, when people ask questions like, well, what is it exactly you do? Those are valuable things, valuable questions to get back to us to say that people are wondering. And then that way we can answer. We can actually answer those questions in the posters. This is what we do, and we can have it as a living document. So that kind of questions and answers can actually go on the lottery website to help us sell the product. So hopefully we'll get that done fast. So Dwayne, yes, you have a question.
So I just heard you talk about basically content and explaining more about I guess the lottery, and if people ask those questions. I myself, I do video, so in that way I can help out in ways if someone wants to record an audio explaining explaining what it is. I can create a small video so that you can use that to post on the website. So if it's a frequently asked questions, or someone wants to just say a 1-minute pitch on what it is, I could help out by creating a video to support that.
Great,
Nice.
Dwayne. Yeah, we should talk more. So certainly, 100%.
Yeah, thank you, Dwayne. That's great. Barb, you have a question.
The one question I got asked more than anything when we did beer for a year before was, I don't drink beer. So we need to make it that they can are they able to get cash instead, Tim?
From what I understand, yes.
So we need to make that maybe don't hide it, make it a little more prominent, because that was the biggest hiccup. By the time you explained to them they could have the equivalent, seems to me it was around $2,500 or something like that, that they could have that equivalent in cash instead.
That makes complete sense to me. As I said, I don't know all the details on the funds, so the things I'll work with Jeff.
Yeah, I
Right.
think our last winner actually took the cash, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. So what are we targeting for a start date for that, Tim?
So Jeff mentioned last night that he was be putting in the application for the lottery today. So if that happens, whatever the turnaround is with the town, hopefully we can get started by within the next couple of weeks.
That's great. Thank you.
President Ann, if I remember from my days of filling applications out, you have to include the or cash equivalent on the application. So
Yeah.
hopefully Jeff can still have time to do that.
Okay. Thanks, Barb, because I'll have to meet up with Jeff anyway to sign the stuff. So that's great. Thank you. All right, that's great news. Thank you, Tim.
Michael Tuff has a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so do social media, Facebook, Instagram, we're going to run that on all of those platforms as well.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, and Dwayne clearly has the TikTok video sorted out.
Yeah, I also, so just to let you know, I do social media stuff as well. You know, social media management stuff as well. So, and video. So in any of the media and social media departments or digital media, photography, video, I can support with as well. So just let me know. I'm here.
That's
Wonderful.
great. Thank you, Dwayne. That's wonderful. Thank you. Okay, just one more thing before we move to the good news round. I have a meeting with Mayor Dolan on April 16th, and they're going to highlight the Innisfil Rotary in her, I think was her, it's a minute with the mayor, or I forget what the name of the podcast is that she does, but they are going to highlight the Innisfil Rotary and what we've been doing in the community during COVID. So we have quite a bit to report on. So I'm looking forward to that, and that will help highlight how we have been helping in the community during the past year while the COVID restrictions have been in place as well. If anybody does anybody have any other questions before we move to a quick good news round? I'm not seeing any hands up, so let's start. Miriam, what would you like to share with us?
I have nothing to share. I have been sitting at home, working on the computer, sitting in on Zoom meetings, and spring flowers are beginning to come up. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Miriam. Jen.
My in-laws and my husband's grandmother are all vaccinated, and hearing them on the phone and how light their voices were was just amazing. You could just feel that sense of relief. So that's our good news this week.
That's great. Thanks, Jen. Dwayne, what would you like to share?
Well, if you guys seen my little display over here last week, I didn't have the drawers in, so now the drawers are in, which I'm happy about. And I'm gonna have it, I guess, in the next week or two. I'm gonna have the cupboard, there's cupboards in up here as well. So I'm excited. I'm just slowly getting my basement in the right space that I want it to be in. So I'm happy.
Thanks. That looks great. Thank you, Janet.
Nothing really new to report other than the fact that I finally got out in the garden on the weekend and started doing some cleanup. So that always makes me feel good about that.
Okay, thanks, Janet. Doug Weber.
Oh, just happy to get out and about. We went out on the bikes yesterday and actually visited a pollinator garden, and I got to see what a fairly large one actually looks like over in Mono. So it was a nice afternoon out.
Great, thanks, Doug. Eleanor.
Nothing new. I'm just looking forward to getting out in the garden, and spring is here.
Almost. It's a little cooler today, but yeah, we're getting there. It's great. Tim, what about you?
We received the delivery of our new fridge and freezer for our kitchen renovation, so that is officially kicked off as of last weekend. Some of you might have seen the demolition pictures I posted that we started. So yeah, we're getting our next project on going.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, kitchen renovations are always a challenge, but I'm sure you'll love it when it's finished.
Yep.
Michael Stanley.
So nothing much, but I remember Chris Begg saying how she noticed some pussy willows, and sure enough went for a walk yesterday and did notice some. So that was kind of cool. But just a little caution, Janet. I know that you've got to be careful in the garden. We're also anxious, but if you go too early, actually you'll disturb all those little perennials that are trying to get out. So in truth, it really shouldn't be till closer to the end of April. So just some caution, because I've seen a lot of gardens ruined because people are so anxious to get up there and clean everything up. So.
Oh, I'm good. These are things from stocks from Sweet Sicily I had to cut back. So
Okay,
I'm
okay,
good.
good.
Thank you, Michael. Sue, what do you have to share?
I'm sitting here thinking about what's different, but there's not much different. But I want to thank Michael for telling me not to get out in the garden. There was a reason. A lot of sticks down from the wind, but I'm sure they'll stay until I get out there and pick them up. Thank you.
Thank you. I use Michael as my excuse all the time for not doing anything. So, Al, what would you like to share with us?
Well, I just want to share with you some good news that affects us and probably a lot of people in the world. And that is that the Suez Canal, as you know, for a few days was blocked by a huge container ship. And they freed it up yesterday and it got out. But it meant that there was a blockage of 400 ships waiting to go through the Suez Canal. And some countries were already running out of produce that normally goes through there. I just want to say, this is not the first time there's been an incident at the Suez. In 1967, war broke out between Egypt and Palestine, and 14 ships were trapped in the Suez Canal in the lake in the center called Bitter Lake. These ships were British, French, American, German, Swedish, Bulgarian, Polish, and they were all neutral ships, so they weren't affected by the war, but they couldn't leave the Suez Canal. It was blocked with mines and sunken ships. The war didn't last very long, but political interference meant that those ships were there for 8 years. For 8 years, those ships stayed in the Suez Canal, and they rotated the crews in and out. And so the ships took on a micronation, and one ship was a hospital ship, a theater ship, a post office ship, and a church ship. And these people survived. And it was 8 years later that the political situation allowed them to leave. And when it was time to go, only 2 of them could start under their own power. All the rest had to be towed out. So we're very pleased to hear that the Suez Canal is open, but you can imagine what it was like back in the 60s when it was blocked for 8 years. So it's good news.
I imagine that. I mean, they were freaking out for the week or so that it has been blocked now. So I can't imagine what it must have been like back then. Thanks, Al, for that, for sharing that today. Michael Tuff, do you have anything you'd like to share with us?
Well, yes, I would appreciate that Bruno Garussi and the Beachcombers were flown to the Suez Canal to pull that ship out. That was awesome. And yes, our youngest daughter, 4th year McMaster, 3 job interviews in her field and 2 job offers and a job accepted. So we're really happy for her.
That's great. That's great news. Thank you. Dean, what would you like to share with us today?
I'm ecstatic that it's only a 4-day work week and it's a long weekend, and I wish everyone a great holiday weekend.
Thanks, Dean. Ken, good morning. What would you like to share with us today?
Sorry I'm late. I slept in. But I would like to say that I'm happy to announce that I got my vaccination. I'm feeling 60% safer, and I hope we all get vaccinated rather soon. And spring is here, and I'm looking forward to. Michael, can you come and help me with my garden, please?
You know what? I would, Ken, but all of my tools are stuck in the Suez Canal because I ordered from Amazon.
Thanks, Ken. Jennifer, I know, is this your last week this week, Jennifer?
Next week.
Next week, okay.
Yeah, so I'm just looking forward to Easter and just slowly slowing down and just getting ready.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Barb, what would you like to share?
I would like to say Warren is getting his vaccine tomorrow. And it's funny how getting a needle has turned into a mini party. I think that's just quite funny. And then when he comes home from the needle, I'm going to send him to the garden, contrary to what Michael said, because it'll keep him out of trouble. And I'm going to remind you about the Rotary weekend if you haven't signed up yet. There's 2 days of it. Really great program is on the website now. And also Warren has been out kayaking, and that also makes me happy.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's great.
That's it.
Thanks, Barb. And Cal, what would you like to share?
President Ann, morning everyone. I don't personally have good news, but Larry's a happy camper. He spent yesterday driving around fields in his tractor. So spring is coming, but according to the weather report, not tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. So who we got? Chris Beggs. Do you want to share something?
Good morning. Yes, spring is truly here. Don't despair, people. Just keep an eye out because I saw juncos yesterday for the first time. So the spring birds are coming back. And the other thing that happened for me yesterday was I got a date for my immunization, which is the middle of April. So that's really, it lifts something from my shoulders. So
where's everybody getting these vaccinations from?
You could go on, I got it through the district health unit, and you go on and you say you're interested, and then they contact you, and then you pick a time, whatever's available. So yeah.
Okay.
But my brother went on in the morning, and he's going to go April 9th. And I went on in the afternoon yesterday, and I wasn't till April 14th. That's what they were offering. So it's filling up fast.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Is there anybody else that I haven't called upon? I think I've called upon everybody right now. Okay. Janet, do you have anything for the Learning Corner?
Well, we learned a lot today, I think. There was a lot of history that was kind of put up, including the Suez Canal. But one of the things is that Earth Day, which has been around for 50 years. It started in 1970.
Really?
And so it's coming up on April 22nd for worldwide, but they are really stressing that when we participate in any Earth Day celebrations, that we do it socially distanced and that we make sure that everybody is safe in doing what it is, but not to turn our backs on it. So that's something. And then just a little note, did you know that it takes, by recycling one aluminum can, it actually can run 3 hours of additional energy for your TVs. And that means that it takes 3 hours because of the, to create a new tin can, it would take 3 hours away from what our powers can do. So keep that recycling going.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Before I conclude the meeting, does anybody else have anything they would like to add? Doug?
Here's a little nugget from our local community. Does anybody know what this picture above is, and more importantly, where it is?
Schitt's Creek. That's Schitt's Creek Rosebud Motel, and it's in Caledon.
It is. It's on one of the nice twisty roads in southern Ontario, just outside of Orangeville, between there and Hockley Valley. So I rode past it yesterday, and I had to stop and take this picture.
Oh, that's great.
So Doug, Schitt's Creek, that doesn't sound too healthy.
Don't drink it. Just look at it.
Isn't it up for sale?
Yes,
It was up for sale last fall for $2 million. I don't know if it's sold or not, but there's nobody around.
worth a lot of money.
And
it made some people a lot of money.
And Al, you had something to share with us last night about Friends of the Rotary who are up for sale right now as well.
Yeah, actually, we got this information through Barb. Barb, thanks for forwarding that. But Sandy and Peter Dickey, and wonderful people over the years, they've promoted the Rotary. They've helped with our fundraisers. They started last year with that wonderful Christmas weekend with the train and for the food bank. And unfortunately, the house is up for sale. And my understanding is they're going to be moving to Markdale. So if you happen to be in their facility in the next little while, please thank them for everything they've done for our Rotary Club.
Yeah, I remember when we had the harvest dinner, they bought a whole table and brought all their staff as well to the harvest dinner that we had a couple of years ago. They have been great supporters for our club, and with the baskets, the honey baskets and everything, they've been amazing. So, okay, anybody else? Doug, you got something else? No? Oh, okay, you were waving. You were waving goodbye. Okay, well, thank you everybody for a great meeting, and take care, be safe, have a nice long weekend. We'll talk
All right, take care,
soon.
guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Happy
Take care.
Easter. Be safe.
Happy
Easter.
Easter.
Take care.